Welcome to the Spiritual Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Sherisse Marie. This podcast is your sanctuary for peace, insight, and spiritual nourishment. Each episode is thoughtfully crafted to inspire and enlighten, blending timeless wisdom with modern relevance, all aimed at nurturing your spirit and igniting your curiosity. Whether you're beginning your spiritual journey or seeking deeper understanding, consider this space your companion on the path to enlightenment. Hello, and welcome. I am Sherisse Marie, and I am here with Monique, and we are going to talk all things animal alchemy. So I'm very excited about this. Monique has been around for a while. She has a deep fascination with both animals and the unseen. And she kind of taps into animals and parents of animals and kind of helps them with that whole passing on, let's call it, the euphemism, when our animals are no longer with us. So welcome, Monique. I'm really glad that you're here, and I'm glad I get to do a little talk with you today and find out a little bit more. So welcome.
Thank you, Sherisse. That was a lovely introduction. I'm so happy to be here to be speaking with you.
Absolutely. Yes. So tell me a little bit about how you kind of fell into this from, I understand you were in corporate before, like a lot of us. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I started, I was in very corporate. I did banks. I was a PA for a prince. I did many jobs. And then I was always alternating, meaning I would be working in a job in a bank or something like that, and then I would just say I can't stand it any longer, and then I would go and work with animals, right? So I went to swim with dolphins and help with autistic children and dolphins. I went working with horses. I did 1,000 jobs, and then I would always come back. And during my last job, which was last corporate job, which was I was an assistant to the prince, I was also becoming an animal communicator. And I was having the first clients. And I remember one day I was just sat there after a reading that I did. And the client was just so feeling with, she was so grateful. That's the word I was looking for. And when I put down the phone, whatever it was, I was just like, wow, I don't think I've ever felt that before. Somebody being so grateful. And then all of a sudden I'm realizing, why am I working for a prince that is not grateful at all whatsoever, right? And so I gave my notice. I became broke. So I went from the stars to the famous stables, right?
But yeah, absolutely.
It was an amazing journey, because then it was easy to be at the, I'm going to say, high level when we are behind the prince, right? I had all the strength in the world, and then I realized, was like, where is the strength now? I'm alone. I have to do all of this alone. And so it was just an enormous growth. But I love it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more about how you got into becoming basically a death doula for pets and helping pet parents learn to let go and do all of that. So tell me how that kind of came about.
Yes. So that actually started a long time before, when my cat Rami was diagnosed with a terminal illness, and he was only 6 years old. And I went to in complete grief. I went to feeling that love that we feel for our animals to despair and grief. And I just couldn't control it anymore. I remember when I was just running around trying to find solutions. I even decided that I wanted to find an energy healing class, like the last minute things that one does to try and
keep our loved one close, right? Like, don't leave me.
Don't leave me. Yeah. Yes. And then Rami ended up dying alone because he was at the vet's, and the vet, strangely enough, the vet didn't tell me what he had. and this was the strangest thing. It's like usually vets tell you what your pet has, and I was just so, trying to find solutions and what have you. But I was trying to find solutions. I was on the phone trying to speak with a woman that was, and then the phone rang, and it was the vet, and he said, Rami just died. And when I ran to the vet's office, and I saw Rami, he was white, and the last image was branded in my brain was Rami sitting on this cold metal table. And gosh, that was terrible. And so I started asking myself, where did the love go? How come did I become this person that was just running around? And because I couldn't feel it. We do this for love, right? We always say, I do this for love, and we do it because we love them to the moon and back. But then the reality was that I was focusing on the illness, on the pain, on my one fear of losing him. And we know in this spiritual community, I'm sure that we all know that what we put our attention on, energy, it grows, right? So I was putting my attention on what was wrong, what needed to be solved, and Rami that wasn't well, and finding solutions. And in all of that, I was growing the drama, and I was, and the connection, the love was shrinking, was becoming weaker and weaker. And in that moment, there was no connection anymore. So that was a realization, and that all of that pain and all of those realizations propelled me into going and finding out, where did that love go? It's impossible, right? Because on an energetic level, I knew that the frequencies of love, for example, I say they're up here, right? They're all of a certain frequency. But then grief and sadness and all of these lower emotions are down here. So down here, just to put it, and in a different frequency. And so I knew a lot of people were telling me, but your grief is as big as the love that you have. But it didn't make sense energetically, because you can't be loving and in grief at the same time. You have to choose. It's a different channel. It's a different frequency, right? But it's in our brain, especially that, this other thing is in our brain. So anyway, that propelled me into a long, 10-year-long research. I studied with a vet that studied natural end of life. I studied with a shaman, and I studied with Tibetan monks. And then I ended up becoming a death doula myself. And in that, let's say, 10-year period, my pets started dying, one after the other. And I had many. And unbeknownst to me, that was going to be then part of my learning as well, because mixed in with my spiritual growth that I was having as well, the deaths of my pets, and then all of what I learned about death and dying just came together. Came together to do. I just found myself doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find your first clients? I'm curious how that came about. And
well, I started, as I mentioned before, I was an animal communicator. Well, I still am, but at that point that was my main thing. And all of a sudden, everybody was either calling me because they had a deceased pet, a pet that was, or a pet that was dying. And so I was doing my 1-hour communication, and then I found myself adding a couple of hours of all of the end of, you know this, and you know that, and you know this. And the people that know me, they know that I can't shut up when I start talking about this. And so I ended up, it wasn't, I nearly went broke, because I was spending 3 hours on the, with on the phone with clients. And then I went, okay, I think I really can help people. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's funny how sometimes finding our niche kind of finds us instead of us. We look and look and look for the thing that we actually need to be helping people with.
Yeah.
And then it's always the most random thing that just kind of shoves itself in our face and is like, no, I don't care what you want.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is the thing that you really need to do.
Yeah.
which is just wild.
And it is wild because, you don't wake up in the morning and go like, you know what? I want to work with death and dying and grieving pet parents. It's like, no. But then I feel the luckiest person on earth, because I see almost daily people going from grief and sadness to actually changing and switching. It doesn't happen in one phone call, but I see it happen. I see it happen. And I can tell you, when I receive those emails, when I receive those phone calls, I mean, it's just like, oh my goodness. You see, I put a lot in my work. I also put a lot of my spiritual work, my personal growth. I put a lot of it in there. Without that, it's just knowledge, right? It's just like, oh yeah, but it doesn't go anywhere. And also the grief counseling and all of that, it tends to keep people in that in that story, in that situation.
Low vibration
The vibrations,
pain.
the pet loss groups and things like that, which it's and it is about raising those frequencies so that we see the bigger picture and we can realign and reconnect with our pets, right? Whether they're still here, and not do like I did with poor Rami. But that connection of love can only exist if we stay in these higher frequencies. So my work is all about us, and then we end up like taking step in our personal growth, and then these qualities, we take them all over. So I'm super happy because through this work, I also train pet death doulas. And my heart just expands when somebody comes and tells me, I want to be a pet doula. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so in love with that, because the world really needs a different way of dealing with the end of life. And when we look at it holistically, because the problem is that now we look at the end of life only physically. So of course, the physical part has to become weaker and weaker and kind of break down if we want the soul to go out. If the pet's mission has come to an end, no matter what we do, it's come to an end. So we can't keep them forever. We are not here forever. We're all dying, right? And there comes a moment where it has to happen. And then at that point, we can try and hold on to the body and look at the body that is becoming weaker and weaker, and look at all the bad things, like I was saying before, right? And we focus on all of that. Or we can look at everything. We can look at what's happening mentally, emotionally. How can we support all of this, us and them? And mostly spiritual, because dying is spiritual. And nobody talks about this, right? And even if they do talk about the spiritual, it's seen as, okay, let me do a little honoring, or what do you call it? Ceremony. Yeah, something like that, which is great, by the way. I'm not saying no. Those are all part of the process. But we have to go beyond. How does our energy affect them? We can't see it, but how does it affect it? How, when they cross over, what happens? What happens, in the way that they die? There's so many things that are really important that are not looked at. And when we connect with those energies, because when they are transitioning, their energy expands and expands even more. And usually we restrict our energy because we're in worry. So we go against the natural transition. And that's why we see more suffering, more pain. Everybody keeps thinking it's only physical. There's so many things that make a peaceful end of life. But the one thing we know, that we are 99.99998, I think, percent energy. So wouldn't it not make sense to look at the energetic side to have an effect on the body, especially during a transition from physical to energetic?
Yeah, and it's kind of wild, isn't it, to think about that? And I do past life therapy for people, and the space between lives is the most interesting part to me.
Yeah.
And then that period before you come back is also fascinating.
Yeah, it's very, very fascinating. Yeah, I was telling a client this morning, I was saying how when one of my cats, Tao, died, after a month, I was driving home, and a song came on the radio, and I immediately felt tears in my eyes, and like I was just starting to cry, or I was driving, and then seconds later, Sherisse, seconds later, I had this wave of love that just came in and just came all around me, inside every cell of my body. And I was going like, oh my goodness, what do I do with this, right? I was just so filled with this unconditional love, like coming from nowhere. And I had to stop. I had to stop the car because I was having like a love attack. And this is just to say how they're not gone. They're not gone. They're not gone. It's just that we only see a little bit of what is here, right? We only see a little bit. And just because we don't see it, does that mean that they're not there? It's on us to upgrade ourselves so that we can do maybe what you're doing, or be more expanded and feel. And it's not a talent. It comes by, if you practice grief, if you practice being sad, you will get more and more. If you practice expanding, if you practice connecting, if you practice love, you will have more love, right? If you want to become a good painter, what do? You practice painting. You don't practice scrubbing roads, right? Although I don't know where that came from, right? But more we practice something, the more we become good at it. So it's not even a talent. We are multidimensional beings. We are not these things that we think we are. We are so much more. And it's up to us to upgrade, to be able to feel more. And it doesn't take that much. It just takes the will to say, let me do it.
Yeah. So how does your process work then? Like what's your first steps with a new client? When do they come to you? I guess is probably the first question.
Well, I have different scenarios. At the beginning, I had a lot of clients that would come in crisis, like my pet is dying, and then they would tell me about the illness, and tomorrow I have an appointment to do euthanasia. I don't know if it's the right time. Can you tell me if it's the right time? And oh gosh, I hated that question. I still hate it now, because it's like a lot of animal communicators get asked this question, whether it's time or not. And the reality is that I can't tell them if it's time or not. What I can tell them is if the animal is ready to transition, right? But that they don't want to know that. They don't want to know if the animal is transitioning. They want to know whether it's time to do euthanasia, which is a completely different question. The difference is that an animal doesn't think rationally. So in the consciousness of an animal, there isn't well, you know what, Sherisse, I've got all of these aches and pains, and you know what, I'm kind of like, you know what, I'm over with life, because you know what, I can't even go out, and I just
such a human way to think about it, right?
It's a human way of thinking. An animal doesn't do that. They don't have the rational brain like we have, and they don't think this is better than the other. They deal with what life gives them. And because they deal with what life gives them and they live in the present, they live a totally different way. Pain, they don't do suffering. Suffering comes from the mind, meaning if I have I have workers now in the house, and I can tell you that I'm suffering because my mind keeps going over the story over and over and over and over again. That's the suffering, right? The animal doesn't do that. They do have the pain. I agree with that, but they can deal with it in a totally different way. That doesn't mean that we don't need to take care of them and help them, right? But when the vet comes and tells them, your pet has this illness and the best thing is to do euthanasia, maybe better now because otherwise they will be in pain later. In that moment, from that moment onwards, the person goes into this spin of like looking, becoming the detective to look for pain, right? And so, like I said before, when you're kind of focusing on something, guess what gets expanded? The thing that you're focusing on, the pain. And they no longer focus on the connection of love, right? So when they call me and they come to me, they're in that state. They're in that state of, I need to make a decision because otherwise I'm not loving, I'm not compassionate, I'm not all of these things. So they have these big decisions. But the problem is, it's a fight. It's a fight between the rational brain that tells you, shall I be compassionate and not selfish and all of the things that they tell you, or shall I kill my animal? Because effectively, you can call it what you want, but that's what you're doing. And the heart will never be at peace with something like that. So I'm not saying no to euthanasia or anything else. What I can tell you is that each person has their own, their own journey. But because I've studied so long about the natural end of life, I have seen how dying is not painful. That the process of dying is not painful, because when a body knows that it's dying, it turns the pain signals off. The pain no longer is necessary. Now, it doesn't turn it off in the whole, year that you are not well, of course, but that's the illness. That's what the last
bit. Yes.
That's the last part, right? And so if we're able to understand what is happening, then we don't need to fear this phase. In the same way, gosh, Sherisse, just come in 1 second. I was watching a film the other day, and there was this woman that was giving birth. Now, I have never given birth, so I'm not attesting, and we know films are films, but sometimes it hurts to give birth, right? And it was so funny because I was looking at the difference, the difference, and it's like the woman was going like, ah, and the husband was going, my love, breathe, and the doctor was going on doing his own things, and everybody was happy. People were celebrating outside, going like, is it a boy, is it a girl? And she was going like, ah. I mean, can you imagine if an animal was doing that at the end of life, and people were just like, that never happens. We see pain where pain is not there. We see pain when the eyes are not, we see pain when our dog is not running after the ball anymore. We see pain where it's not. Yet when there is pain, like when sometimes when we are birth, when there is a birth, when we know the process, then it's completely different. Now, I'm not saying that we have to leave animals in pain. That's against my every pore of my body. But I can tell you that I haven't seen pain. I haven't seen pain in at least, like I said, 10 years of all of this. I haven't seen pain at the end of life.
Right at the end there. Yeah, absolutely. So I have a question for you, because I've had this happen to me 3 or 4 times now. Okay. Where people are holding on to their pets really tightly and unable to let go.
Yeah.
And then I'll kind of like tap into the pet, and the pet is just hanging on just for the person. Like it's not, it's ready to go, but it's like, no, I must suffer this pain because my human. And then for whatever reason, when I say they'll be fine without you, the pet's usually gone within a couple days.
Absolutely.
What's your take on that? Like, and I know that there are other people who have kind of that intuitive ability. So what's your take on the ethics? Well, I guess there's a few things, like the ethics of doing that, and then, how that process works. Yeah.
So energetically, they don't, so there's many parts to the dying process. So like we said, that there's the body, there's a mental side, there's the emotional side, and of course there's the energy, the spirit. So the spirit may be ready to go, and that's when, as an animal communicator, we connect with, yes, the animal is ready to go, which doesn't necessarily mean euthanasia because of what I said before. So let's say that the energy is pulling, so the spirit is pulling, the energy is ready to go, and that's where we see pain and suffering. because the energy wants to go, it's expanding, yet the animal, which loves us as much as we love them, right, is like, okay, let me hang on just a little moment. Let me hang on just a little moment. And that is when, there is this constriction, because it's like, hang on, it's like if you're pulling on a rope. And the moment, and this happens to humans as well, the moment the person goes out of the room just for a little moment to have a coffee, boom, the soul goes. But it's not that they're leaving, they are loving us. And so they say, oh, let me stay just a little moment, because they're loving us as much as we do, right? So it's the human side that kind of, or the animal side that is able to stay. Sometimes they're like spiritual lessons as well. Things like that, it's like, because every challenge has a gift behind. I'm sure you know this. And so, yes, and this is what makes us grow. And sometimes there is this, an end of life can be really quick if it's okay. It can be just like, my cats, just the first cats, oh my goodness, it lasted 2 years. And then the last ones are like, okay, bye, I'm going. And I'm like, really? Do you really need to go now? And it's just like,
I'm not ready yet.
No, I don't want that. And sometimes I keep turning around and going like, where are you? And then, oh, okay, yeah. But it doesn't have to be like that. So yes, there is that ability to stay longer, both humans and animals. And that is why I've prepared this big course that we'll talk about it later, but I prepared this big course that contains all of these things, because we have to get ready. We've learned what to do with our puppies. We give them the best food. They pee all around. We know they go to school. They do a lot of disasters, puppies, right? But then it's like, even spiritual people, this is the interesting side. It's like, you get to the end of life and you go like, well, I don't know what to do. And then you go like, okay, here, it's like, but we used to be able to take care of our dying, animals and humans. Dying at home is the most beautiful thing that there is, right? If I think about where I want to die, I don't want to die by injection in a hospital surrounded by beeping noises. And I want to die in my bed, comfortable, watching over a nice ocean view or something. I don't know. I live in the mountains, so that's why I'm saying that. But, I want to have my loved ones around me. I just calmly loving me, telling me how everything's going to be all right. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to relearn. We need to take back that responsibility of learning how to deal with this. And it's not just to know what is happening physically, but it's how do we deal with a challenge? How do we stay calm when confronted with something like that? How do we get grief? Because grief comes, right? Even when we are, but grief comes and then it gets resolved, because it's like, okay, I'm sad, and then I'm like crying, and then I look at my dog, and he looks at me with that goofy smile, and I smile. Then I cry again, and then something else happens, and then I look at my cat and my dog, and I just want to love him. And then, and all of these ups and downs, it's that constriction, expansion, that then serves. It's like when you constrict, what's inside of you comes out, right? So if you squeeze a lemon, the juice comes out. And when you look at that juice, you can see, oh, look, I become nervous. Oh, look, I become antsy. Oh, I become angry. And then that's how you find your gifts. This is an incredible transformational moment to be in a challenge like this. And our pets help us to get over all of this, because they're still there. They're still loving us. But if we say, oh, you've got bone cancer, okay, I don't know what to do, go to the vet, euthanasia, from one day to the other, the animal is gone. And now you are blocked in that one channel, which is a channel of grief. You don't have that up and down and up and down and up and down. We have the blueprint to resolve everything in our bodies, right? But we need to follow how nature made us, right? If I'm angry at you now, Sherisse, just because I'm angry, I don't know how I can do that, but let me pretend I'm angry. I can't be angry for my entire life, right? I'm angry for a bit, and then it goes. All emotions come and go. But with grief, we haven't done the completion, right? We haven't, and that completion work comes from being in the challenge and having them help us come out of the challenge as well.
Absolutely. So that's something that you work with, is kind of helping people get past the grief and process it and all the things. Do you find that there's a lot of people that have a lot of guilt or shame around the end of their pet's life?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
something
because
that...
that's human. That's totally human. Animals don't have that at all. It's like, does my pet think I'm bad because I did this? They don't have those. They're living in these high frequency unconditional love. They don't even touch that. That is a human thing. That is a human rational thing. I'm thinking, I did this right or wrong. An animal doesn't think right or wrong. An animal just follows the instinct.
just
No right or
is?
wrong. Yeah, is.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I love that. I love that.
And so, yeah, but it's like, okay, I'm guilty because I did euthanasia too soon. The other one comes and says, I'm guilty because I did it too late. I'm guilty because I didn't do it. I'm guilty because I did it. No matter how you look at it, it's not the fact or whatever we do, right? We have to realize it's not what we're doing, it's how we are perceiving a certain thing, right?
Yes, yes.
So
Love that.
these are the tools that I'm helping people with, that they come out of it. And then when they come out of this grief, they come out with all of griefs in the future. And it's not only the end of life, it will be life itself. It will be any challenge in life, right? So this is why this course is so transformational, because it's not about just looking at the end of life. It's about how can I change so I can then heal, and then I don't no longer have that problem.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So tell me a little bit more about the program. Like, how does that work? What is it?
So I actually have I have 3 programs, but the first one is the coming together of that famous 10 years that I told you about. So it's divided into, it's called Walk Your Pet Home, and it's divided into, the first part is a lot about finding out about death and dying from a more spiritual perspective, and learning about our pets' missions, learning about what the illness means, for us. We're looking at all of these connections. So it's more of a looking at, for example, also looking at the brain and how our brain manages when we are told a terminal diagnosis, and how we stay stuck with that image, and how the hormones of stress and all of that stuff. So it covers things from all sides, and that is like the beginning of it. And the second part is the Tao, and that is connected to the end of life. So there are specific stages that all beings go through, whether human or animal. In fact, in my classes, there's a lot of people that go like, oh, but my dad just did that. And I'm like, oh, my dad.
Well, that works. We're just like them, except with a little more intuition and a little more consciousness.
Yeah, and even the famous quality of life table, I always say this, it's like we get this quality of life table to say, if we tick all the boxes, it says that our pet's life is no longer worth living, right? And I get that table of quality of life, and I can tell you a non-painful reason for that, because there's a process. In the same way that dying is a process, in the same way that being born is a process. We don't just kind of come from heaven just like, here I am, ta-da! No, it takes 9 months for us to come, right? If we are in a hurry, maybe 7 or 8. But effectively, it's a process that has specific stages. And dying is the same thing. It's just, we're just going through the same door. It's just the other way around. We're just going from physical to spiritual. And so the Tao, the second part of the course, is actually about that process. It's teaching people exactly what is happening in each step of the way. so that they can understand whether it's time, for example, to run to the vet because your pet is in pain. Here we are.
Yeah, there we go. You're back. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm back. did we lose this piece, or was
I think
everybody?
we might have, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so let me just go back. Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
We're back.
It's the energies. Okay.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're talking, all the energies, and the pets are all like,
yeah, I know. Everybody's got I am sure that all the pets of all the people that are here with us, they're going like, I want to speak, I want to come in, you know. That happens a lot, you know. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
But, so the second part of the course is mostly around the stages of death and dying, because all beings have the same stages, like I said. And so it's important to recognize what is pain, what is not pain, what stage they're in, and whether it is important to rush to the vet or whether we can stay home because it's a very last moment. And like I said, when it's the last moment, there is no pain. Now, it may look like pain, and I explain everything, you know, the panting, the yowls, everything that looks really like pain, that isn't. But then if it is pain, we go to the vet, right? But we need to we need to understand what this is. One thing that I do want to say is that unfortunately vets have never learned the end of life process, so they don't know this last bit. And so they will, when an animal is in a certain scenario, they will not consider the spiritual side, the energetic side, which completely changes what they experience on the physical. So this is important for us as pet parents to take that responsibility. The vet's responsibility is to cure and you know, and heal and give us all of that beautiful things that they do. But the last part, which is the spiritual part, which is the crossing over, the loving, the love and the spiritual side, it's on us. That's on us. Yeah. So the Tao, is the second part, and it's all on that. So this huge course is Walk Your Pet Home, is divided in two, and like I said, it's like this. And then I have a course for doulas, because the more we are doing this work, the more pet parents we can help, the more pets we can help, and I am just so excited about this work. And then the second one is how to get these doulas to come out like business-wise, spiritual business, right? It's not just business. Absolutely. But it's like, okay, how do I succeed in this? Because otherwise, you know, if we have all of this information and the capabilities, but then we are just in front of the computer, and this is what I did. That's why the things are in the way they are, because I was like, well, I have all of this to share, and I was staring at the computer. The bank was taking my house, you know, I wanted to foreclose my house, because, you know, I went from the prince to doing animal communication for 3 hours. You know, that's
absolutely.
What I
yeah, it's and it's tough as someone who is empathetic, into energy stuff, to ask for money for it in a lot of cases. It's uncomfortable. And I'm just going to talk about that a little bit here, because it's important to recognize that it's okay to take money for that. And I'm not just talking to you here, I'm talking to everybody. And it's also okay to pay people for that, right? Like, this information is super important, and people should be paid in order to provide it for you. It's not like,
no, thank you so much, because it's like, you know, I got to a point, as I said, they were going to foreclose my house. I was, and then I remember I was sitting here in front of this desk, and I was going, what do I do? Do I send a newsletter? I didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden I realized, I said, well, Monique, you have to do something, because if you don't do something, then you're going to have to go back working for the prince, right? Or working in a restaurant, whatever the work is, it doesn't matter. But then it's like, how can I support all of these people in being like I am? I mean, I tell you, this has taken such a weight off of all of my being, When Rami died, I dug him back up. I think I was the worst of the person in crisis. I was the worst. So I know how it hurts so much. I know how much it hurts it. But we need to heal it. And so if we're not able to, if we don't pay people like me and the doulas, then to learn that, then we don't heal. I've paid thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands to get to where I am, right? But I am grateful for every single penny that I spent, because that makes who I am today. And otherwise, these people can't work and can't bring all of this good into the world. So absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, so how can people find you? What do you got for us?
Well, on my website, here on Spiritual Growth Summit, on my website is www.animalchemy.com, and it's down there. Thank you, Sherisse.
Absolutely.
And yes, I'm also on Facebook as well. I'm sure you will be able to connect me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And definitely reach out if you have any questions, because this is an important topic. It really is. Like, if we don't have the tools and the information to help our pets do this, then we traumatize ourselves. We don't traumatize them because their spirit doesn't care. We traumatize ourselves. And that is so much not the direction that we should be going in.
Absolutely. So. And also just going back to that thing about money, right? I say to I have asked myself as well. I say, if I have to spend, I'm going to say $10,000, just putting a number, but then I know that my animal, I can take care of my animals, and I'm not in this, sorry, I don't want to say bad words, but grief that hurts so much. And I know that my pets are dying peacefully. Isn't that worth it? Right? And I just put a number, right? But even 10,000, to be honest, even 20 and even 30, if you can tell me that then that is what I get, why not? Right? Is it not worth any money for holding that love?
Yeah. And then I love the idea that this is transferable too, right? Like, yes, right now we're talking about pets, but we're all at that age. Parents die, loved ones die, kids pass unexpectedly, friends and family and all the things. And it is really tough to work through if you haven't had someone kind of show you the path to moving past your grief, and accepting that, it's a human experience. You're not getting out of it. Like, I mean, you are, but not the way you think.
And that's the thing, we push it away all of our lives. And, I prepared for this meeting, or you and I made my curls. I put the lights on, I put the microphone on, and yet we don't prepare for the one thing that is certain in life, which is death and dying. I mean, it's just, we prepare for everything in life, but we for a party, for a universe, whatever, we don't prepare for that. And this is the other reason. This course that I have is not, ideally you want to take it now, not yesterday, now, not tomorrow, because when you're in emergency, we can't learn, right? So before, you were asking me when clients come to me, and usually they are in emergency. Now they realize that this is a journey and they need to start learning before. So if you don't wait until your pet is like, tomorrow my pet is going to the vet. Start now. I have people that have puppies and are in my classes, and they come to me and they go, do you know that I did this with my dog today, and she did this? And I'm going like, yes, and this is life. This is learning about life. I know the title has Walk Your Pet Home, but it's a journey, and it serves life itself. and it serves our relationship with our loved ones, not only in the dying, it serves everything. Yeah.
But in the living, not only in the dying, but in the living.
Absolutely.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. Any last things that you want to say to the audience before we let you go?
I really love when people come to me and really want to learn this thing, because as we just finished saying, it isn't just about the dying and the last moment. It is actually about life. And what I see is that people then get excited about life because now they have better tools to live a life. And like we all know, we're kind of living in an important moment right now where we have a lot of challenges around us. So life itself is asking us to make that raising consciousness, to have better tools to be more aligned with these frequencies so that we can help the world be a better place. Right. But it's on us. It's not on our governments. It's not on our, it's not none of that. It's on us. And until we keep the fighting, the angers, the griefs inside our hearts, we will continue seeing that on the outside as well. Right. Yeah. It's an energy thing. Right. And so we need to heal ourselves. And our pets help us because they're going like, come on, with a big paw from heaven. They come and slap our faces or, like unexpected end of lives. And I go like, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. This was a lovely conversation, and I hope everybody else enjoyed it as well. I know there are some comments, no questions, but there are some comments that you may want to reply to in the chat, in the
didn't
video.
Have questions. Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherisse. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.
Bye.
I'm your host, Sherisse Marie, and I want to thank you for joining us today on the Spiritual Growth Podcast. It's always a privilege to share this sacred space with you. We hope you carry these reflections with you throughout the week, letting them guide your actions and enrich your spirit. And as always, we're here to support you every step of the way. We love hearing from you, so feel free to leave comments or reach out with your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, you are never alone on this path. Together, let's continue walking towards greater awareness and deeper connection. Take care and be well.